Text messages and other communications by Ginni Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, found their way to the January 6th committee as a result of their ongoing investigatory probe into the January 6th insurrection. And let's just say that what they reveal as well as what they imply is more than a little disturbing. It's one thing to say that what this woman was communicating to members of the Trump administration strongly suggests she was all at once either participating in a coup and or helping one to happen, which is of course bad enough on its own. But to then learn that her husband, Supreme Justice Clarence Thomas, took it upon himself to issue a dissent opposing the release of the very documents that would reveal his wife's involvement in the insurrection shenanigans, and, well, like I say, very disturbing stuff indeed. Now, this seems like a pretty obvious conflict of interest, but it could signify something even worse, since it would not be too totally outlandish a conclusion to suggest that Clarence might be in agreement with Ginni's thinking on the matter, meaning we have ourselves a full-on Trumper, QAnoner, MAGA judge on the bench. And possibly even worse, it also reveals he's not exactly a master of strategy or common sense in the matter of self-preservation, since he probably knew, although I can't swear to this, but I suspected, he probably knew the other 8 justices were going to vote to release the records to the committee, which would mean in dissenting, he was drawing attention to himself while doing nothing meaningful to change the outcome. So basically, why do something that only serves to stress your obvious bias in the matter? Now, as for Ginni's chart, I do not have a birth time, so I'm only working with the day positions. But even with those, you can see the potential for things getting dicey through her fixed planet positions, especially the Mercury-Venus squaring Mars, because this area is getting Saturn pressure through most of 2022, an area that gets triggered right around now when she was caught with her hands deep in the cookie jar, but also later in the year, from August until early 2023, when Saturn stations, thereby making a heavy challenge to these degrees, and it doesn't let up until well into February of 2023. I would think it is this second period she should be most afraid of, because stations tend to be when things really come to a head, and nothing like Saturn to collect karmic debts related to prior acts of malfeasance. And she and her husband can yap all they like, either about the righteousness of their cause or the legality of it, but it is obvious as the light of day she was breaking the law and doing so in a most repugnant, seditious way. So yes, her actions were malevolent, no doubt about it. And I should add that when Saturn leaves Aquarius in the spring of 2023, should this matter get a grip, so to speak, the problem could extend into all of 2023, because Saturn will then be cruising through the early Pisces degrees and therefore over her Sun degrees and moving toward a square to itself. So basically, the karmic payback could easily continue. In short, more than enough time runway for her to meet what I think would be well-deserved comeuppance for utterly shameful behavior, even if, charitably speaking, it might in large part have been due to being quite delusional, which is a disease so many of these MAGA freaks seem to catch by default. And should she be born in the early hours of the day, then her Sagittarius moon would be pulled into a transiting Neptune square, which could last 2 to 3 years, since the late Jupiter in Virgo would get the opposition from the Neptune as well. The Jupiter part will be true no matter what, and if things start to get legally hot for her, then the transit opposition alone would be enough to add to the potential Saturn pressure. But if the moon happens to be in on it, then even worse. Of course, all of this is without an accurate birth time, which would serve to either leave everything with the same approximate odds as I present here, or, alternatively, help to offset or even remove the dangers she could face, but could also serve to complicate things even more. I will admit that I am so outraged by her behavior that I am praying for the latter. And as for her obviously less than ethical husband, what about his chart? Well, it turns out that for Clarence, we have an actual birth time. A thank you to channel viewer Chris Wickens for sending me that information via email. Could this situation turn into a major problem for him? What are his odds? Stay tuned for that story in the next video.